What happens when you've got a little one that is maybe not where they should be in terms of solid?
And I think what's really important for you guys and for moms out there is just to remember that there will be this tension and play between solids and milk, and it will be actually for a good 6 to 12 months even that it will continue. In between exclusive milk and exclusive solids, we've got to have this journey of where does the milk go? It doesn't just disappear overnight. And also we don't want it to disappear too soon. And at the same time, we don't want it to stay at the front and center too long. My advice normally around this is she managing to take in a variety of nutrients. My concern is if a child is eating more, but it's mostly like rice cereal, for example. So if they are missing a milestone by a few months, you definitely want to give some intervention and assist them. Everyone, and welcome back to Let's Talk Baby. And I'm joined together with our co-host, Sammy. Hi, Sammy.
Hi, Kath.
So nice to be doing this again. We just love our weekly chats and our journeys together, both with our patients and our own children. And especially your little one. So for those of you that are joining us for the first time, we've been doing a series on weaning, and we've been able to follow Kyla's weaning journey, which is Sammy's little girl. And that's been really exciting just to get a look into her space and what she's been going through. And for those of you that have been following us and have missed some of the episodes, you can always go back and find them. And if you're in the start of weaning, this is a wonderful series to look into. Is this something that's come up in your space and your discussion with you and Matt around Kyla's feeding and her bottles and that, or is it something you haven't really thought about?
Yeah, it has. So we are reaching that stage now where Kyla's really taken to solids wonderfully. And now we start having to see where that balance comes in between milk and solids. And we've had a few friends that have little ones that are older than Kyla that we've seen how, that bottle intake has slowly dropped bit by bit as solids have increased. And then, Matt and I have been faced with it organically in a way that Kyla has, she's been going through a little bit of illness at the moment, but she has just been refusing bottles and, going from she was on 4 or 5 bottles a day, obviously all different sizes, including a dream feed, to kind of going down to not even half her normal daily intake. And so that's something at the moment that we're busy facing and causing quite a lot of stress for us.
Yeah, I know we've spoken about that. And I think what's really important for you guys and for moms out there is just to remember that there will be this tension and play between solids and milk. And it will be actually for a good 6 to 12 months even that it will continue, even beyond a bit. So internationally, the guidelines say we've got this window of up to the age of 3 to allow children to navigate the milk food journey. And we want to, obviously in the beginning, we do an exclusive milk and then we start introducing solids, but then we want to end up with exclusive solids. But in between that, in between exclusive milk and exclusive solids, we've got to have this journey of where does the milk go? It doesn't just disappear overnight. And also we don't want it to disappear too soon. And at the same time, we don't want it to stay at the front and center too long. So it's that fine balance between the two. And I liken it to like a scale, those old fashioned scales, that you weigh. So in the beginning, milk is going to literally be at the top and your solids will be right down. And then you're going to introduce solids and they will slowly come up. Milk will still pretty much remain, but then over time, you're going to end up with it being at that point, and then eventually you're going to have your solids and then your milk go down. But around this stage is often when there's a bit of tension because like in Kyla's case, what she's done is she's kind of dropped her milk too soon and you haven't got the solids quite well. The solids are in a good space, but there's
Yes.
still a need to have an amount of liquid intake.
Yeah.
And so this I know has been a challenge for you.
Yeah.
And so what my advice normally around this stage is that we want to keep looking at the overall nutritional intake. That is
Mm.
really important. So is she managing to take in a variety of nutrients? My
Right.
concern is if a child is eating more, but it's mostly like rice cereal, for example, or it's not
Yeah.
like a variety of protein and a variety of fats and a variety of veggies and fruit. So then, in other words, what's happening is you're missing out on certain key nutrients. And that's the benefit of milk, because milk holds all the nutrients in it.
Yeah.
So, in a bottle, she's getting everything, whereas sometimes in a meal, it's not the case. But I know in Kyla's case, we have spoken about it, and she has managed to take in a fairly balanced,
Mm.
holistic meal time at each meal space.
Yeah.
I don't know if you want to comment around that.
Yeah, so I think that's why we haven't really been complete panic mode. I mean, her liquid intake has concerned us, um, where we know that she's not getting what she usually got in and probably what needs at this stage. But we've just been confident in knowing that she's been eating her solids really well. And so, we then look at her solid meal and make sure that we've got different food groups at each meal, and, try and pack a nutritional punch, because we know she's not getting that
Mm.
from enough of her bottle. So she's still having the odd one, but like I say, the amount she's taking in is less. And then, something that concerns us, not only the nutritional side, but is actually hydration. And so
Mm.
we've been offering her little bits of water, and a bit of black rooibos, just to make sure that she's meeting her hydration needs as well.
Mm. Yes, and I think, that is so important, moms and dads, is that you've got the nutrients which you've spoken about on the one end, but there's also a need for liquid intake. So when they have milk and they having that intake, whether it's breast milk, whether it's formula milk, there is a liquid intake that they require and that they need to get in. And so the more the baby leans towards a more solid diet and less liquid intake, you have run risks of potential hydration issues or constipation a lot of the time. And I know Kyla has struggled with that a bit. And so,
Yeah.
like we were talking, the other day, is that it's really important to just find ways to give her those sips of water, sips from your cup, sips. I know she drinks out of a straw cup, sips
Yeah.
wherever you can, every meal time, and then also include in a bit of extra liquid in her meals. So if you are making a spoon meal, because I know she's doing a combination of self-feeding and spoon feeding, if you're doing a spoon meal, you can add in a bit of extra liquid. Sometimes you add in a bit of extra of her milk. And
Yeah,
so,
that's
moms,
what we
that's a
do.
really good tip, is just to add it into your solid meals, that extra bit of milk that she's not drinking, because then she's getting quite a lot of extra nutrition there. So whether it's in her porridge, or whether it's even in one of her savory meal dishes, or even add in a bit of extra milk to the yogurt, maybe making it a little bit runnier, but it still is easy to eat and enjoy. So I think it is just finding clever ways to manage those. And then the other thing that you've done is keeping in a dream feed. And
Yeah.
there's a lot of pressure at this age group where people are like, your baby doesn't need to be feeding in the night, and they could just sleep through right now. But again, it's what is happening in this little baby's world. And in her case, she's needing that extra liquid and nutrition, and you are managing to get it in at night with one dream feed, which I would say is extremely valuable. It's still very age appropriate and
Okay.
very helpful in getting her into that space.
Yeah. So we do at this stage rely quite heavily on the dream feed, because we know that one has been consistently a good feed. So we've definitely relied a lot on that one. And in Kath, in the complete opposite end of the spectrum, what happens when you've got a little one that is maybe not where they should be in terms of solids, and they love their milk, and they may be having, what a mom or dad would consider a lot of milk or majority milk, and only a small amount of solids. That balancing scale again is then still really high with the milk and low with the solids. What do you recommend in that instance?
So I think firstly, looking at, and you and I speak about this a lot, feeding on a continuum of development. So assessing, is the child taking a bit longer to develop feeding skills? So feeding actually is a lot of energy for them, a lot of work, whereas drinking milk is just that much easier. So they would need some energy spent with them around feeding time. It's tempting in those cases to say, feeding is so hard for the baby, therefore it's so hard for me, so we maybe won't do it. We will just leave it and just give you a bottle, but to still make regular feeding moments. So you still do a breakfast moment, you still do a lunch moment, you still do a dinner moment, because that gives them time to practice the skill. What's really important is to make sure you're engaging with your child in that moment. Are you eating with your child? Can they watch you eat? Are you making it fun? So to encourage that mealtime moment, but then to also be okay that they are still having a bit more bottles at the moment because they haven't developed the skills. And then also as they grow, so now we're talking around, she's 7 months, but which is still appropriate to be fairly more bottles than food. I know she's the opposite, but that's still appropriate for another child. And it just shows you, the continuum and the discrepancy between those. And then as you get kind of 8 months, 9 months, and if that shift is not happening, you want to then start reducing some of the bottles around the meal time. So you can have a good bottle in the morning to get the day going, and a good bottle at the end of the day to kind of fill the day gaps, and then possibly just one more bottle in the middle of the day. And then what you want to do is you want to give opportunity for a hungry tummy at the other time, so that you do give them that. But if they don't have the skill, you can starve them and they still won't be able to eat. So it's just managing that carefully. And if you're really concerned that your baby is lagging behind, you would then need to see someone who specializes, like what you do with feeding therapy and what I do, and how we work. So it would be important that you then make contact with someone that can assist you and guide you to make that transition. Because just like some children will need to go for some therapy if they are so behind in their crawling and they're walking. So if your child kind of is post a year and they're not crawling, then you definitely will want to give them some therapy and help them towards that. So if they are missing a milestone by a few months, you definitely want to give some intervention and assist them. And it's the same with feeding. It's actually no difference. And we'll definitely do more podcasts around that specifically. But I think for the point of this one, what we're saying here is you have your continuum. You have a Kyla on the one end who's like, I love food. That's what I'm born to do. So actually the bottles can take a back seat, and it's just to manage her on that journey and manage her nutrition and her liquid intake. And then the other child on the other side going, I'm 7 months. I'm not wild about food. I'm loving my milk still. And that's still okay around this age group. And give time to still meet some of the developmental milestones, but keep at it, keep engaging, keep with it. Just like with you and Matt, you need to keep offering her the bottle still, because it's still part of her diet. It still needs to form part of her world and her space. So you're not just going to go, oh, she doesn't want bottle, I'm just not going to do it. So it's on both sides. You're not just going to go, oh, he doesn't want to eat, so I'm not going to feed him food. I'm just going to do bottle. and the same way. So yeah, I think that's just I would say that keeping that tension and watching, what is
Yeah.
the overall nutrition intake and how's the development going.
And Kath, just sort of to end off, for moms and dads listening, what are your red flags where parents are seeing, okay, they've either got a Kyla that loves the food and not so like interested in the bottles anymore, or a complete opposite where it's like, I love my bottles, I'm not interested in food. Where would one, or what are the red flags where you're going to say, okay, I actually now need to see somebody?
So I think in Kyla's case, for that baby that gives up on milk, it would be, just making sure they're not losing weight, because they're losing out on passive nutrition calories, which means they can just access them easily. So you don't want her to lose weight. So if she starts losing weight or dropping off her curve, definitely would require a consult just to get her back on track. Her constipation, which is why we've been chatting, you need to check, is she getting enough liquid and enough fluid intake in? So those would be two of the big ones that I would say. And also if her food starts weighing in. So, her milk is weighing, but if her food starts as well, we will need to definitely see what's going on there. And then on the other side, where the child's not wanting to eat solids really and just doing milk, again, the same, you need in now some other nutrients as they get closer to 7, 8, 9 months, and you don't want them to be like not gaining weight. They can also be an excessive amount of weight gain, sometimes with too much milk intake. So watch that, the curve's not just going straight up. So that would also warrant a consult. And then a huge amount of nighttime disruption, just because they're requiring milk on the hour every hour. That's not normal post 6 months, 7 months. You definitely don't want that. So then I would definitely just get some help and guidance.
Amazing. I think those are so important. So it's not panic stations, but it's actually just to keep an eye and to monitor your child.
Yeah, 100%. So we will watch Kyla and see this madam and see if she goes back a bit to her milk. And for you moms and dads out there, thanks for listening to us today. And we're excited to help you along your journey of weaning. And remember, there's no problem too big that can't be solved. And nipping something in the bud, as Sammy mentioned, watching those red flags, getting help early, getting it sorted is always a good thing, so that you and your little one can enjoy the weaning journey. That's so important. But thanks, everyone. Thanks, Sammy.
Thanks, Kath. Bye, everyone.